got me hyped.
Yeah, I feel like I'm walking into the octagon here with this.
Ready to go.
Yeah.
This has got me hyped up.
Yeah, I told you.
All right. So we tried something a little new this week. We told Gabe, we said, Gabe, don't tell us what the music's going to be. Just pump it out.
Which was concerning.
It was. Well, he was nervous that we weren't going to like it. And I was like, then we'll just make fun of you. You know?
Which is fine.
It's like
It's expected at this point.
It is expected.
Did you rip this from the new Creed 3 movie?
No, we don't have the license for that. So, no, I got it from the same website we've gotten all
But
of
I like that we're now promoting major motion pictures on our
Is it 3?
AA meeting podcast. So it is 3. You got it. You got it. How many of them have you seen?
I've seen all of them. I like them.
Have you really?
Yeah, Creed 1 and 2.
I gotta watch them.
Yeah, it's good.
Rocky,
I mean,
I kind of tapped out after Rocky.
It's not, you're not winning any Academy Awards.
I mean,
or
I think
anything,
I think it did get nominated.
Did it?
So
Well,
probably
maybe
the
got
first
nominated.
one. Yeah,
I don't know.
if it won any, but
Yeah, probably not. It's just entertainment.
this is the meeting after the meeting. I am John.
I'm Chris.
Welcome to our 4th episode. We want to thank everybody for being here with us tonight, for the folks who are online, for the people who have been listening on podcast platforms.
Thank you.
We're starting to get some listens, some unique users. So it's very exciting.
Thank you.
It is. It's exciting. Just to give anybody who's new a heads up, the meeting after the meeting is a online Zoom meeting and a podcast that gets put out a couple days after the live show on Wednesday nights on all different platforms: Spotify, Apple, Google, Podbean, anywhere where you get your podcasts. Also, starting this week, we're going to be uploading our videos to a password-protected site that you can request access to as a user. For subscribers, and you'll be able to watch past videos of the show.
There's been some questions. We're trying to tell people about what we're doing. Mostly get speakers, and there's been some.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain it a little bit.
It's kind of hard to explain.
It's new. There's not really anything like this.
You can't really point to anything.
Yeah.
We have broccoli on the table and lights, and cameras.
When we got these plants, I was like, I actually
somebody
thought
mentioned it a couple times to me.
Chris picked them up. You got them, and you were like, man, these look good. And I was like, in my mind, I said, I think these look like broccoli. I didn't say anything to Chris because he was he was like flowing and getting all this stuff, the artistic side of him. And then the person at the counter, when we were ringing them up,
said, you want both of these broccolis?
Do you want both of these little mini broccolis? And I was like, I knew it, man. I knew it. But I didn't want to, it's a conversation piece. So let's introduce Gabe. Gabe, our producer, is over here. What's up, Gabe?
What's up, everyone?
How you doing?
Doing well, man.
Your mic sounds good tonight.
Yeah. I might have fixed it.
Maybe.
So Chris might be a little mad about that, but I know he liked me sounding pretty,
I liked him sounding distant.
Yeah.
Yeah, even
far
though
away.
he's not that.
Not like a human.
I didn't want him sounding like he was right behind me.
Yeah, you didn't want to. You wanted to dehumanize me a little bit.
No. No, I just don't like the sound of you creeping up behind me or anything.
All right.
Well, we're glad you're here, Gabe. Thank you.
Happy to be here.
And thank you for all your service and everything you do. Gabe makes this show happen behind the scenes. So.
And there's a lot to do. So he's doing a lot.
He was talking about, he was like, I might have to step out tonight. We were like, you can't step out.
Yeah,
what are you doing?
Out.
The middle of the show. So
a little cigarette break, something like that.
You cannot. You better hit the vape in here, buddy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on here. Let's get into our guest. We have a great guest tonight. I'm excited. She's been a friend of ours for many years, and she's a great member of AA. She moved back to this area recently, I would say within the past year maybe, and she's jumped back in up here, and it's awesome to see, and we look forward to kind of getting to know her a little bit. We introduce Jane K from Vienna, Virginia. All right, they love Jane. Look at that.
What's up, guys?
What's up?
That clap track is
legit. I feel like a celebrity.
Well, you kind of are right now, tonight.
I feel like I'm Ariana Grande.
Hey, I like that. I like that.
I'm so happy to be here. It's a nice little spot, nice studio.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
Feels comfortable?
Yeah.
Broccoli and all?
I still think we should get the plant wall.
The living wall.
Yeah, but I'm just a plant girl.
I like that. I think that would be cool.
No, it would be.
Yeah. It's a vibe.
It is a. Is it like a green? Is it like a green?
It's the green. It's the nature.
Okay.
It's the color. Green is like
Does it look
calming.
like grass?
Yeah, and it would match the.
Did this kind of, was this the thing that made you think about it?
That's the thing that did it for me.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you go into like the co-working spaces today, like WeWork, Industrious, it's all
Yeah.
the kind
And
of,
it is kind of like cliche, but I think it's cliche for a reason. People like it.
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I get it. It feels like you're outside. We're stuck so much inside.
Yes.
This room there's no windows in here. We're really lit up right now,
Yeah.
but it's by artificial light.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll go down that road. I think
There's
we
no
already
vitamin
have.
D happening here.
By the way, the set is going to be up. I think. Are we
we're
promising next week or?
Well, yeah, I think
right.
we're going to get it up and do something about this white wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It works for now.
Yeah. It's okay.
So, well, why don't we get into first off what we like to call the stats? Jane, why don't you just tell us your sobriety date and your basic information before we get into the 3 W's?
Okay. Well, my sobriety date is November 4th of 2008.
We were wondering that too. We were
Yeah.
like,
We were.
2008.
Yeah, we can get into that later. Yeah.
And then I have a sponsor who I call at least a couple of times a week, who you both know. And then I have a home group, which is Haven at Last on Thursday nights.
I'm familiar.
Yep. At
a lot of Haven home group members coming through first.
Hey, we'll
those are the
we'll
people
take 'em.
doing AA.
Wow. There it is. We were wondering.
That doesn't mean that other people aren't doing AA, but there are some people there. There are some people doing it, which is good. So
Yeah.
I think it's just John's asking for the leaders. So.
this is true. Well, this
The
is
speakers.
This is where I go. So this
where you
is
go.
who I know.
Yeah. It's
so,
the honeypot.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
Jane, we are glad to have you, and I'm excited to hear your 3 W's here. So why don't we start it off with what you were like? Maybe just give us a story or two, a brief overview of what it was like for Jane in her drinking.
Yeah. So before I started drinking, just growing up, so I didn't start drinking until I was 18. Before that, I was always a troublemaker.
Which is late by
It's late.
by standards today. I mean, 18 is like you're ancient.
It's like, what were you doing?
By the way, Jane and I went
What
to
were you doing before that?
Jane and I went to the same high school.
Yeah.
Also,
Really?
yes.
What?
But I'm like a little bit older.
Definitely not at the same time.
No, not at the same time.
I knew
So-
his brother actually better.
so-
his brother was a senior when I was a freshman, and his brother tormented me.
Oh my gosh.
It's okay, we're cool
It's
now.
not surprising.
Okay, yeah. I didn't get to see Jane in high school, but it sounds like so you were a good kid through most of high school.
My actions were good. I always had a smart mouth. So I would get myself into trouble. It was almost like, right, the alcoholism was there before the alcohol was.
Oh, I relate to that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I would get myself in situations that it was kind of like, I just had a lack of, I did not like authority, respect for authority. Like, not even a healthy level. It was just bad. So I would
Like a
talk back.
revolter. You would revolt against authority.
Yeah.
How was your filter? You also probably didn't have that great of a
Zero.
filter.
Zero.
Yeah.
If you think I don't have a filter now, I mean, that was like totally untreated. So it was like, if I thought it, I said it.
Yeah.
So that obviously got
relate.
me in the principal's office
Oh, yeah.
24 times in one semester.
And you hadn't even taken a drink yet.
And then I had to go to ISS.
Yeah.
Remember ISS?
Yes, I do.
In school.
God. With what's his name? Mr.
Yeah.
White.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, he knew me.
I was in so much trouble in
Yeah.
junior high. I mean, I had the cops called on me because I made like a fake dart gun and I shot the music teacher in the butt with it. Yeah. And they were like, this is a deadly weapon. I was like, no, not really. It's just like a BB gun.
You were actually being creative, and I don't understand. Like, you were using the resources you had, and people just are so quick to judge.
So judgy, you know?
They would have wanted you on
And
their
the worst
team.
thing is, the girl sitting in front of me totally ratted me out.
Yeah.
He turned around. He said, "Who did that?" And she turned right around and pointed right at me.
Wonder what she's up to.
She was on my fourth step, I think,
Snitches.
actually.
Yeah,
Snitches. Snitches.
And, it's funny because I think behavior like that is common a lot of the time in alcoholics. It's not, I don't think it's everybody, but you find a lot that by the time we ended up getting a drink, we were ready for that drink.
It's the restlessness, the irritability.
Yeah, and I
discontent.
think in my early life too, I was a product of two parents that were ill-equipped to live life on life's terms. One of them, my father, is an active alcoholic and drug addict and always was. So there's that. And then there's my mom, who isn't an alcoholic but has had bouts of drinking heavily and just is the product of another parent who is not, just like didn't give her a good upbringing. So I think on top of the nature that I was born with alcoholism, the nurture part also was like totally whack, you know? So I just got
Non-existent.
So just basically
Not a lot of nurturing going on over there.
not a single nurture. So I just kind of came into the world doing me, you know?
Yeah.
And it just, I mean, the version of myself pre-drinking was, I was out for me, only for me. You know, I did things to get things for me. And it wasn't like a conscious thought, like, oh, you're in my way, let me screw you so I can get my way. It's just what I did. It was totally acting on instinct, 100%.
Yeah. And so when you finally did get drunk and start down that path, what did that look like?
So I was 18 and I broke up with my boyfriend of 2.5 years. He was kind of boring. He made good grades and like slept 8 hours a night.
Smart. Had a job, in a car.
Promising future.
Yeah, he
Probably
literally
wants that.
extremely loyal.
What's he doing now?
So he allegedly is married and has a kid, but I hear his wife is maybe a little.
I don't even know why I asked.
What did you think you were going to get here? So, okay. Anyways, yeah.
So,
go ahead.
I thought you were going to say like doctor,
And his name
lawyer.
is. So he is actually a CPA and he is a really good guy. But I broke up with him and this, new guy came into town. He was got kicked out of private school, came into our school for second semester. And already he was like, I mean, if you get kicked out of school, like that's hot,
Yeah.
So
Bad boy. Here we go.
Girls love the bad boy.
they love him. And so
the bad
he had a brother. And so my friend, Lizzie, and I, we would hang out with him and his brother. And it kind of they were really into drinking and partying. They had like a lot of siblings. And that's how we got into it. And so the first time I got drunk, I was 18. I had 2 beers. I got totally drunk off of that. I think I had some shots too. And it was a good night. Nothing bad happened, but I definitely took to it like a fish to water. I mean, I remember after that, that was all I needed. And I felt like and I genuinely say this, I felt like a whole door had been opened to like a new world. And I got excited.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the way that people describe that first drink. And for a while in AA, it was confusing to me because people would say that they discovered alcohol. Mm-hmm. And the longer I've been sober, I've thought about that statement because it's like you think about discoveries, you think about the theory of relativity, like the earth is round, no matter what anyone says, it's round. You know what I mean? There's gravity, those kinds of
Flat Earth podcast.
those kinds of discoveries are groundbreaking. But so was alcohol.
Yes.
It didn't matter. It changed my whole entire perception of the world. It was a discovery.
Absolutely.
In every sense possible.
Mm-hmm. That's how I describe it. I mean, at the time, I would have never said that.
It's hindsight.
Yeah, but looking back, I agree. I mean, that was totally my experience. It opened up a whole world. So I had really bad anxiety when I was in high school. Not something that you can really see on me, but as soon as I drank, I realized instantly it took my anxiety away too. So I was
100%.
like, instantly I could do all these things. I knew there were going to be so many things I could do now that I could sedate myself.
Yeah. And, whether that was subconscious or conscious, I think for me, a lot of it was just, like you said, at the time, I wouldn't have been able to tell you, but looking back on it, it was like I started to be willing to do anything to get that feeling again. And that meant losing friends or, stealing and doing things that I necessarily wasn't doing before.
Yeah. Well, and at the time, right, like we talk about the insanity that, like gets us to drink. It's, if I kind of look back at that time, losing friends and pushing people out of my life, none of that was like conscious. It was just justified. Like I would justify it. Well, you know, this girl who's a really good friend of mine, we've just gone down different paths. She's kind of a bookworm now. She's really into college. You know, people change. It's okay. And really, I'm just being super selfish. And I just want to like do these bad things. And she's trying to be a good friend and tell me not to. But I justify it as like the problem is kind of like her. She's changed. I'm just trying to live my life. But at the time, I don't see it that way. You know, like
Never do.
At the time, it's real to me that we're just changing, you know, and then the delusion carries on. And then she's literally going to college and graduating and I'm 21 about to be sober because I'm going to kill myself, you know, like.
And speaking of that, let's I'm going to try to wrap this up. It's tough. There's so much to talk about, but in like 3-4 minutes, where did it take you after high school? What kind of path did you go down? I know you got into the restaurant business and started probably partying every night. What did it look like for you? And how did it progress towards the end of your drinking?
Okay. So I started drinking when I was 18. The first night, I blacked out. I then drank every week and then twice a week and then 3 times a week and then on and on until it was 7 days a week. So by month 3 of drinking around, I had already been arrested.
Daily drinker.
Daily drinker, skipping school. I actually did not graduate high school because I skipped so many classes, not because I didn't have the grades, but because I skipped the classes to go drink. That summer, I got a job at Houston's. that was my introduction to the restaurant business and to a bunch of people that partied the same way I did. And I mean, when they say like, I have felt like I had arrived, I felt like I had arrived. I found my people, I had money, and we were all doing the same thing, you know, and getting arrested and getting blacked out drunk wasn't a big deal. About a year into it, I got my own apartment. Things were going good. And somewhere along the 2-year mark, that's when things switched. So I was always a 7 night a week drinker, mostly blacking out, doing crazy things. But the halfway point, something just happened. And I think what it was is 2 arrests, $30,000 in credit card debt at, like 19 or 20. Kicked out of, or not, like I got evicted from an apartment, or almost evicted. Sorry, I've lied so much I don't even know the story. Almost evicted. Just everywhere you looked, my car was not working anymore because I didn't take care of it. I had bench warrants out for my arrest, so I wasn't able to get my license. And so then the physical, like the outside things were getting bad. And so then internally, I think it just followed suit. And the last 1.5 years of my drinking was basically me drinking with a bunch of heroin and Oxycontin addicts because I knew that they wouldn't judge me. And
sounds fun.
Yeah, so fun in the basement of the same person's house every single night. And every single night I was blacking out and I was hoping that the next day would be different. And I always wanted it to be different, but I just didn't know how. And I genuinely did not know how to break the cycle. And long story short, towards the end, I would drink and I would sometimes try to kill myself. And like, it's funny now, but it's not funny, like at the time. And I just got to a place where I started to get very, very dark. I mean, I would ride home from work on the bus, and in that 15-minute ride, I would start off maybe okay. And by the end of the ride, my head was so loud and would just attack me with so many negative things, anxieties, worries, pressures in life, whatever it is, that by the time I got off that bus, I had to drink. Like I just had to drink to shut my head up. Like just like the hell that was my mind. And so that was really in a nutshell.
Drinking to preserve your sanity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think you gave a really good description. I related a lot to everything you just said, and I think a lot of people relate to that hopeless feeling near the end. And the only solution we have is drinking, even though it's the thing that's killing us. So, and from there, what let's move on to the next W. What was it that happened to you that kind of was your
moment of clarity?
Your moment of clarity, your jumping off point, where you got to this place where you're like, I can't go on with drinking. I don't know how to go on without it.
Yeah. So I was, Had 21 jobs in the span of like 4 years.
Nice.
And I'd gotten out of the restaurant business thinking, that's my problem. It's the restaurant business.
I mean, fair to say,
Maybe it contributed.
probably. I mean, after talking to Matt last week, I mean, it's not helpful.
It's
No.
it's a great place for alcoholism. It's alive and well.
We did a whole show on it.
And it's encouraged.
Yeah.
And I got to a point where I just was like, I got to get out of here. This is the problem. So I got a 9-to-5 job. What ended up happening is towards the end of my drinking, it really wasn't about going out and having fun. It was, like you said, just preserving my sanity. And I went out with my boyfriend at the time. He got his 4th DUI. And we went to I went to a meeting to support him. Now, backtracking just a little bit, I had been arrested a couple of times. Like I said, I had all those financial problems, and I also had I had a lot of fun in drinking, but I couldn't, towards the end, I couldn't leave the house. I mean, I was like afraid to leave the house, like sober or drunk, and I'd gotten in a lot of fights and some sketchy things had happened and just things that I knew, despite my parents and how they were, like growing up, they did teach us some very basic, like 101 life things that, like you could say, were morals. And I just knew that I wasn't living, like there was something in me that just knew what I was doing wasn't right. And I went to this meeting with my boyfriend at the time. I mean, I had no idea what AA was. I thought it was whatever you see on TV. And I related to what the speaker said that night. But, like anything else, I mean, I instantly was like, yeah, but that's not my story. Or yeah, but this isn't whatever. So I related to the feelings that he talked about in that first meeting. But I wasn't like sold. I didn't really know what AA was. And truly, when I look back on it, I realize now I had to come for a couple of months before I really understood what alcoholism was for me, and what AA is and how it can help me.
And how would you know, though? I mean, this is so, when you come in, and I had even the benefit of being incarcerated and getting introduced to AA while I was there. I mean, but if I can't even imagine just coming in, like 2 nights ago, maybe I was drinking at a club, and then 2 nights later, I'm in an AA meeting. What? You're just like, where am I?
Yeah.
This is so different than.
It's very foreign.
What is going on?
It's a very foreign thing,
People are nice and talking to you.
They're laughing about terrible things that most people you never want to tell anybody. They're saying personal things about themselves that's weird. So I love that you said that, actually. And I think it's really important if you're new, maybe you're watching tonight or you're listening to this, it's okay to not know right away.
Yeah.
And
you're not supposed to know.
Coming back and going to more meetings and doing some of the other actions, getting a sponsor, reading the book and working through the steps is a great way to find out.
Yeah.
Well, and also, I forget when I was new, I hadn't had a conversation with somebody sober in like 4 years. Yeah. So I would come to the meeting and these young, pretty girls that were my age at the time were like, hi, how are you? Like, do you want to come to the dance later? And I was like, no, I don't want to do that at all. Like, that sounds like no. And also, what do you want from me? That's like my first thing. Like, what do you want from me?
Yep.
Why would you just offer me a ride or invite me somewhere? Like, what is it that you want? Yeah. And so it just took me, it felt culty and I didn't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the circling up, praying God, it didn't help. It doesn't help.
My armpits would sweat. I would stutter.
And the nice, like most of my relationships, if not all of them, except for probably my family and the people who love me before I got to AA, were very transactional. Mm-hmm. It was like, you're asking me you're going to give me a ride. What do I have to do for you? Or you're going to help buy me dinner. This can't be just something nice you're doing, know? And so the people in AA, they kind of freaked me out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what I didn't know now, what I know now is one, they do it because it helps them.
Right.
But two, like me always assuming that somebody was out to get me or use me was just a reflection of honestly the way I was living and who I was surrounding myself with. Or
in my case, anybody that I had any sort of interactions with while I was drinking could benefit me in some way. Mm-hmm. There were some sort of inherent advantage to having a conversation with you. Otherwise, why am I talking to you? Mm-hmm. So if I come to AA, I don't see any inherent advantage in AA. Why am I even here? You know what I mean? Like, what information are you going to give me that's going to benefit my life in any way, shape, or form? You know, so it's hard to listen, you know, and people tried, you know, people tried.
Yeah,
For sure.
And being hopeless was a good way. I think that all of us end up eventually to some degree coming in because we're
100%.
willing to listen. We're willing to listen because we've got no ideas left, you know? And so that sounds like that's where you were at. You were eventually got to a point where you're out of ideas and these, you know, pretty girls who were asking you to do things, you started saying yes for some reason.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good cue into what you're like now. Can you talk a little bit about what early sobriety was like and how your life has evolved and your, you know, program has evolved since you got sober?
Yeah. So the first year of my sobriety was really hard and uncomfortable. And you guys know me and you know that I talk a lot. And at this point, sometimes you can't get me to shut up. And I also say whatever I think is on my mind, right? Like that's what some people like about me and that's what some people hate about me. It's like very hot.
There's no in between on that.
Yeah, there isn't. Honestly, it's like, no.
When we
I
talked
relate
about
to that
when we
as
talked
well.
about having you here, you are, Chris, you are like that as well. But when we talked about having you on, I was like, she's a firecracker, man. I was like, Jane, you never know what Jane's going to say. So it should be fun.
It's kind of fun. Yeah, you'll never be bored with me. That's the thing. So, and I'm like being reserved right now, you know?
Yeah.
We are live.
I
we're
did
live.
ask her, I was
Yeah.
like, upstairs, before the show, I was like,
Yeah.
let's keep
Yeah.
it,
Like,
you know.
like
yeah.
Matt said last
PG.
week, we're a family show.
This is a
we're
family show.
So, you know, when I first got sober that first year, I didn't talk. People would talk to me and I would just be so uncomfortable. Again, armpits sweating, sweat pits. I had sweat pits and I would stutter and I just felt awful and awkward. And
Because you're sober.
you're sober and there's nothing
Yeah.
that is
No
like
barrier.
no barrier, nothing between me and what's happening in
raw.
life. Raw.
Yeah.
And I also, I just felt really over judgmental of myself and what people were thinking of me. I mean, that thing you hear people
Self-centeredness
say.
is just like on you.
Yes, like where do I put my
Always.
hands?
Yeah.
Like that. I don't know where. And I think, you know, one of the things that was taught to me very early on that I trained my feet with was service positions, calling your sponsor every day, going through the steps with your sponsor, going to meetings. And I feel like there's another one I'm forgetting, but, you know, giving or getting rides with people. And those things were really, really important for me. And they were unbearable. We know someone in AA who says like, it was like walking through a cheese grater. That's how it felt to me. Like it was every single day I was trying to make a plan to cancel my plans for the evening so that I can just like do me and not have to deal with the whole AA thing.
Seconds and inches.
Literally.
Yeah.
And through time, you know, I think the best place I could have possibly been at that time was in a place of complete willingness because I just felt so bad that I kept coming back. And after the meeting is the only time that I would have about 30 minutes to an hour of relief. And so
The meeting after the meeting?
the meeting after the meeting, this meeting,
Meeting after the meeting.
do you love that? So,
Just a plug.
keeping it going forward a little bit. So I, you know, over time, eventually people would ask me for rides. I had a car, so I would give people rides and slowly, and every time I'd want to cancel. But those people would eventually third, fourth, fifth, seventh, 10th time, you would start to really get to know them. And, you know, my sponsor told me to ask them questions about them, even though I did not care. And I would start to care, you know, like I would start to kind of care. Like I'd follow up.
Crazy how that happens.
Yeah, like I would take the action before the feeling.
Yeah.
And fast forward a little bit more time, and a girl asked me to sponsor her, and that's kind of where I started to feel, you know, along with the steps, kind of invested in AA. Because I started to really want her to feel the relief I had felt. And I started to notice some of the progress I had made through her, you know? And so through that process of just doing that years and years and years, continuing to, you know, work the steps and help women and just be a part of Alcoholics Anonymous, like it has changed my perspective completely. Like drinking is absolutely not a solution for me. Like it is contingent on like what I'm doing in AA, but today I can tell you like it's not, I don't even think about, like it's crazy that I did the things I
You're
did.
placed in a position of neutrality.
Yeah, 100%.
Something you said you took the action before the feeling. And that's paramount in AA because you can't understand something that you've never experienced. And every action in AA is like that. And if you're new and you're like, why is my sponsor telling me to do this or that or read this or do this, or you have to just trust that there's something there and just do it anyway, you know?
Yeah. Like those stupid sayings in AA, mood follows action. Don't give up 5 minutes before the
Fake
miracle.
it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it.
There's
Meeting goers, what is it?
Meeting makers make it.
Meeting makers make it, which is
wow.
like, and I'm just like, I mean, major, like when you're new and you're just like, shut up.
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's unbearable.
Like,
yeah.
Especially
Pray
because they're
about it.
smiling and happy when they're saying it.
Yeah.
Meeting makers make it. Don't drink even if your ass falls off. What does that mean?
Yeah. And you're just like, cool.
Yeah.
Like literally don't care.
Yeah, it means nothing though to you if you haven't had that experience. It's like a foreign language.
But what I think you were saying, Chris, is that, again, reminding people who are new, it's okay that you
okay to
don't
not know.
understand.
Yeah,
it's
you
okay
can't
not to
understand
know.
it.
You
Yeah.
can't. And so what we all did, I think what you were saying is we just took some actions, maybe somewhat blindly. But the other thing was, in participation with an active home group and a sponsor, you see other people doing it.
Yeah.
And you see them and their lives maybe changing. Now, we have a uniqueness about us that makes us feel different than those people. So it's probably not going to work for me. I know you probably relate to that. It's definitely not going to work for me, even though it works for you. But taking those actions ends up working eventually for us.
Yeah. And I think that's where language of the heart really came in. Like the language of the heart they talk about really came in for me when in my newer, that and fellowship, to be honest. Because, I had a couple of people, a very select few that I related to and that I believed that they had felt the way I had felt, but that they no longer felt that way. And honestly, I kind of clung on to them in the beginning and I just did what they did. And then the fellowship helped keep my mind active and busy so that I wasn't like, if I had to go out to the diner after, if I went to a party, those things helped distract me long enough where I could start to get it, so there was hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That language of the heart. I mean, it's like binary. It's ones and zeros. Everybody gets it,
I don't think
no matter
that-
where you're from.
I don't think you can have AA without it.
No,
I mean-
because that's the connection.
That's the connection. And I have to have it from both ends now. Like I need to still have it from the people who have more time than me, such as my sponsor and those people. And I have to keep giving it back. And it
Yes.
keeps me in the center.
Yes. And, it's funny that we talk about that because we're going to move on to our topic here. And I do want to ask you more about what your sobriety is like now. But in our newcomer tip of the week that's coming up, we're going to get into something that I think it'll be fairly easy for you to talk a little bit about your sobriety now. So, but why don't we hop into our weekly topic, which this week is the benefits of working with others. And I think it's something that I try to tailor to our guests on the show, this topic. And I've noticed since I mentioned you moving back to this area, you did not hold back in trying to help other alcoholics. And from the start, I mean, you came in and
Jump
back into this area. And not that you weren't helping people where you lived elsewhere, but you came back in here and I saw you immediately working with women. We share the same home group and I saw you putting your hand out and giving people rides and bringing girls to dinner before the meeting and doing step work with them before you would, we would be hanging out with dinner and some girl would show up and we'd be like, oh, you're here. And she'd be like, I'm just here to meet Jane to do step work. So, but doing that kind of stuff. So what are the benefits of working with others? And when did you realize that there was a benefit to working with others?
Honestly, I realized it pretty early on because I was able to get out of my head. Like, it's very hard to pull me out of my head, but when somebody else has something going on that I can relate to, there's this feeling that happens when I start saying, hey, like I've been there, here's what I did about it to get better. And when you see someone else get relief, it almost gives you relief, and that's when I first noticed it. And then, like as time has gone on, like sometimes cases are different. Sometimes people just piss me off, but
Yes.
and not everybody gives me relief. But I think honestly, that's the first thing. And then the second thing is, it keeps me, truly, it really does remind me where I came from because I'm over 14 years sober now. Life can be good and I can be lazy and it can feel like I don't need to pay all this special attention to my sobriety. Like, nothing's wrong with me. Like I have that ego still,
Yeah.
and I can't forget where I came from. because that's kind of how like the getting back to that insanity would work. I would start to just gravitate away from AA, and then I would believe that I'm okay and I can do things on my own. And next thing you know, I'm alone. And
it never looks like I want to drink. It never looks that way.
Yeah.
At least for people that have been sober a while. I mean, it never looks that way. It's like, wow, you know, I got a family now.
yeah,
Or I have a career.
like I have real responsibilities.
I have real, I don't have time for this, that, and the other thing, and it happens slowly over time, and it's sneaky.
Yeah.
And the time is the main word in all of that is time. You know, it's the time that I start to be unwilling to barter with or to trade as much
Well, it's
as
the
I
only
was.
thing in AA of any value plus your experience. I mean,
Yeah.
there's the newcomer doesn't care about my net worth
Yeah.
or what I do for a living or where I live or if I have kids. Could care less.
Literally.
He just,
care less.
they just want my time and my experience in AA. It's the only currency of value.
Yeah.
That's it.
Chris, what about you? What benefits have you seen? How quickly did you realize that this was something that could help your sobriety?
Well, I think for all of us, we all know each other. We've grown up in the same sort of brand of AA. Whatever you call your home group now is almost irrelevant. We all had the benefit of coming of age in AA in a really great environment where valued sponsorship, valued the three legacies, essentially, working with others, doing the steps. And so early on, I mean, you're just kind of like, you're in that mode where you want to help people. And I remember driving with this guy one time and just giving him a ride, and he didn't have a sponsor. Of course, I was working on him, I was giving him the best pitch I could. But he said, and this happens, he said, hey, I'm thinking about asking this guy to be my sponsor. I was like, man, that's great. I said, why don't you call him right now? I gave him my phone. I had little flip phones back in the early to mid 2000s,
Yeah.
And he called this guy, and he was having a conversation with him. And it's really awkward when you hear someone asking someone to be a sponsor. It's like asking a girl out. It's
Asking somebody on a date.
it's odd,
It's weird.
And he was asking him, and I knew what the guy was saying. And in my heart, I was like, man, this guy's got a shot. He's got a shot at having an amazing life. And I just felt so good for him. And it had nothing to do with me, nothing. And I was like, that's it. That's it. Normal people, if they could get that feeling somehow, it's a priceless feeling. They would pay, and they often do, and they try to find it in all kinds of ways, whether you're doing yoga with goats or hiking mountains or whatever it is, they try to find it, and all we have to do is help another person, another alcoholic.
And a lot of people find it in different ways through maybe
There's nothing wrong
their
with that.
church or their
Sure.
religion or some sort of social thing. But we as alcoholics, I need it.
I need it.
I need it.
Oh,
I
yeah.
am, we talked a little bit about selfishness and self-centeredness in the beginning, and I need to get away from myself.
Especially, and I'm not going to point you out, but just because you and I are a lot alike, that ego that we have, and John, that ego is like, if anything's going to undermine me, it's that ego.
Yeah.
And what it sort of manifests in so many different ways, and how it can literally tear you apart,
So Jane, tell, in terms of working with others, in case somebody's new or somebody maybe is feeling like they should be working with others, or maybe your sponsor told you that you should be working with others, what are some of the simple ways that you work with others? What, aside from sponsoring somebody and taking them through the steps, because I know that I always used to think that I had to sponsor somebody to help them, or the only thing I could do was to read the book with somebody. What are some of the ways that you help people? Simple ways.
Yeah. I mean, I think for one, if I get someone's number, I try to call them within the next couple of days. And I don't always, I honestly will sometimes meet like 5 people in a week, and I just forget their name or something, and I can't find them in my phone. But I try to just call people, even if I just see them at the meeting. Like the biggest thing that I try to do, and again, not perfect at it, is when I see someone sitting alone, and I just try to like engage with them, whether they're like newer or like super, super new, because sometimes when you're new, it's hard to it feels uncomfortable to ask for help and just talk to people about how your day was. And so you'll just kind of isolate, and that's not going to like do anything, you know? So that's one way. Call people. And even if I can't help somebody, I love making connections for people. So I'm not a mom, right? I have a lot of friends who are moms. If a new girl comes in and she's struggling with a kid thing, I will direct her to like 5 people I know that are moms, you know? So sometimes it's like an indirect kind of help. And that's good enough, you know?
Yeah.
Just being in the meeting regularly, like showing up every week somewhere, wherever it is that you go to meetings.
That's a good one.
Just being in a chair where people are used to seeing you.
Yeah.
You know, I remember that when I was new. I mean, I could rely on the same people being at meetings. every week.
Consistency.
Consistency.
Yeah.
So
That's a really important one. And newcomers won't come in and like know that, but they will know the people who do that.
right.
And they will trust the people who do that. And I'll be honest with you, not to call out women, but to call out women. Women are actually not as great in AA like as men are at that, in my opinion. Sorry.
Here
Hey.
we go.
Now that's not a total like everybody, not like every woman. There are plenty of women that are, but it's just there are more men in AA in general.
I think that's
And-
probably a big part of it. There's
Yeah.
just more. There's more, and that's changing. I think it's changed over time, and it's gotten
Yeah.
better, and it ebbs and flows. But we could always use a stronger presence.
And
you
the
know?
reason that I say that is because as a woman, I feel like an extra duty to do that for the woman who comes into the meeting when there's like all men there, you know? And we don't really have that problem at Haven, but just like some other, when I lived in Florida, I was like one of 3 women in like a 50-person meeting.
I mean, we're lucky in this
Yeah.
area. AA is super diverse,
Yeah.
integrated. I mean, lots of men, women.
Yeah.
And it's
Of
not
all
like
ages.
that
It's
everywhere.
not like that everywhere.
So if you're a woman and you have some time, it's probably even like kind of more, that's like a big service for women is that we can show up. And I hate to make it like male woman thing, but I'm just saying it's like, that's true.
No, it's a real thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we could talk about helping others and different ways to work with others forever. We're going to move on here. Let's get into the newcomer tip of the week.
Look at this guy.
Oh, we got a different newcomer this week. I like it.
It's a serious
Is that
cloud.
a vape cloud? Oh,
It's a serious.
he might be in a vape cloud competition here.
Is that a neck tat too?
Yeah, another neck
Oh,
tat.
he's got a neck tat.
Chris has a lot of pictures of dudes with neck tats.
Flat brim hat.
I mean, I'm not trying to
got the-
profile. I'm just saying.
Yeah, he's
Thinking newcomers. What are we
Be
thinking
someone
about?
from South Florida next week.
he might be from South Florida.
Jane, when you were new, was this someone you would talk to?
No.
You can't tell Jane's stuck up, man. Are you kidding me? She was looking for the guy in the suit who had money.
Yeah.
No. All right, so let's get into our newcomer tip of the week. The tip of the week is wherever you go, there you are. Moving isn't a solution for alcoholism. And I think this is important not just for new people, as you'll hear with Jane's experience, but I think we want to point out for the newcomers that you can't just move somewhere else and run away from your problems or your life, or more importantly, your own thinking in your head.
You could try.
You could try. People try it.
And they do all the time. Yeah.
I mean, I've had a guy over the past year who just rolled out. I was working with.
Yeah.
He just left. He was like, I'm going to go backpack
Yeah,
in
wherever.
South America. And I was like, damn. I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
But wherever we go, we take our mind with us. And Jane, you in particular, again, tailoring this to you, have an experience. You mentioned living in Florida. I don't remember when you moved, but at one point you got sober here. You were, active member here. You and your husband moved to Florida. And how long did you live there?
We lived there 6 months before the pandemic started. So like September of 2019 to February of 2022.
Okay, so it was a while.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you've said it. I know you've been vocal about it, just kind of your experience with that. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about what moving was like for you, what the thought process behind it was, and how that maybe shifted after a while of being there?
Yeah. So, before I left, it wasn't like I was, F this place, I hate this place, but I just felt like I needed a change. I felt like I had been helping people. I'd been going to the same meetings. I had been doing the same blah, 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 blah. And I think I felt like I had hit a plateau just in everything. And thinking of moving to Florida and the sunny beach weather would.
Seasonal depression's real.
Yeah,
It is.
It is, right? And so
And I don't care what people say, these lights don't help.
do
You know, the
not
ones
help.
you buy
Yeah.
for
I thought you were talking about these lights. I was like, these lights definitely don't help. I'm
mean,
going
it's
to be
like-
blind.
In fact, I have more
They don't help.
anxiety. No, I'm just kidding. But, you know, I thought that would distract my mind. I don't really know what I thought. I just truly believed it would be different. And I can sit here and tell you that I didn't think I kept saying I'm not moving because I want to be happier. I know the geographic doesn't work, blah, 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 blah. But that's why I did it, you know, like, and the truth is I was fine for a little bit and it was new and exciting. And just like anything else, think about when you're in a new relationship and like everything they do is just, it's so perfect and special. And well, if you're like me, you've already like identified 17 things that you hate about them. But for regular people,
not including your husband.
not include, yeah, actually not. That's why I married him. But he's like super chill. But
Solid
before
dude.
that,
We need to get him on.
yeah,
actually.
he's like,
should.
you
You
should.
should,
Yeah, he's like real even keel. But you know, like it's that relationship, that euphoria, that great feeling. It's so exciting, and you honestly kind of believe it's never going to go away. Like that's just what it is. And you could probably marry that person in that early on because you just how much you believe that they are
Some
literally
people
it.
do.
Yeah,
People. Yeah.
some people
Not,
do.
not naming any names.
Let's name them. No, I'm just kidding. So,
In the other
We don't
podcast,
We don't have enough time.
shit
Trust me.
talking.
yeah, in our our podcast where I'm part of it. So, you know, and then they start to annoy you, and they start doing little things, and they become more human, you know, and that's kind of what happened with Florida. It just became
Florida.
another place to live. Yeah, it did become
Florida.
It became
terrible.
Florida.
There are plenty of people who live in Florida who enjoy it.
Yeah,
And
no,
I
mean, it's-
think
weather's nice.
mostly-
Weather's nice.
It is very nice. I mean, I had the boat, I had the house, I had
Yeah.
the nice car, I had the husband, I had the work from home job, which is like AKA not working.
But you weren't. But it did not make you happy on its
No,
own.
I
That
had the
alone did not
beach.
make you happy.
I had the sun, and I was on my boat one day with my husband, and I'm literally in paradise.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful evening. The sun is setting, and I just think to myself, why am I so unhappy right now? And I was like, I think it's because I don't have any of the people that I love to
missed
share this
people.
with. Yeah.
Relationships.
Yeah, and
You
it's
missed
not to say that like you can't start relationships somewhere else, but I just realized that it wasn't about where I was. It was about cultivating what I had, and I think I had kind of missed that boat when I moved. Like when you meditate, the idea is not that you stop your brain from thinking. The idea is that you are able to find peace within, like with what you're thinking. And I think what I thought was I wanted to escape this area to get to a new place to find that peace, when really I needed to find the peace here.
Yeah.
Like
Wherever you were.
It's an
wherever
inside
you are.
job.
Yeah, it's an inside job. And
Such a
not
good
that I wasn't doing
saying.
AA.
I mean, it's so true.
Yeah, and not that I wasn't doing AA, but I think I was focusing more on the physical things of AA and not working enough on the inside.
Yeah. And I think your scenario may not be the same as maybe a new person who's thinking that they just need to get out of town to fix their life, but it's almost the same way. And I think what we're saying, if you're new or if you're thinking about just leaving to go somewhere else to make life easier, you have to remember that you're bringing yourself with you. You're bringing your brain and the same fears and, wreckage of your past and everything you've got going on. You're bringing it with you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And every once in a while, someone probably has a different case, right? Where maybe my husband grew up in Fort Lauderdale. He did a lot of his drinking and drugging there, and the only connections he has are to that area. So for him, making that geographic early on in sobriety and going to rehab somewhere else was what he needed to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So I just want to clarify.
Notwithstanding a situation like that.
I'm glad you brought that up. Some people move, and it's probably a good thing to get out of their neighborhood or get out of that place, like where they step out their front door and three of their buddies are asking them to come drink on the corner or come party. So that can work. But that alone, without a spiritual solution, the inside, job, is not going to be enough. You're going to need to work the steps still.
And
Can't
we're
just
not-
move to Florida.
Yeah, nobody's saying you can't move. That's not what we're saying. It's the expectation around that.
That's it.
Right? You know what I mean? People move all the time.
Yeah.
You know?
Successfully to different countries.
Our first guest, Jerry, moved
Yeah.
down there and
Yeah.
you know, so he's doing a lot of work. You know, he's hustling, and in a way that he hasn't hustled before, so like at least in a long time. So since he was here, so you can move. Just you got to have the expectation that it's not going to solve any problems.
And that's not to say I don't think if you had stayed down there, you could have been happy and continued, because you did get a home group. You did stay, were active down there for the most part. So I think the point is just very simply moving is not a solution on its own.
Wherever you go,
There you are.
Yeah.
Let's move on. We've got an exciting sketch here we're going to do. It's new. We didn't talk about it at all, but this is a little bit different. I personally am excited because I'm not going to be.
Feels like school, Jane, to me.
I am not a part of this directly, but
there's a pen here.
yeah, we've got pens. Everybody get your pens ready. So the sketch, we're going to get into the sketch of the week. Today's sketch of the week is called We Had But Two Alternatives. I'm going to explain it real simply. There's going to be 5 short readings. Jane, Chris, and our producer Gabe will choose whether each of these readings is from the Big Book or the 12 and 12. The person with the most correct wins a set of God dice.
No way.
Yes.
You
If
got
you
God.
I need
listened to
them.
last week's show, we highlighted some stuff, and one of those items was God dice. Well, guess what? I bought some God
And
dice.
they shipped that fast.
And they haven't shipped yet, but you'll get them. Jane,
So
I'll
it's
mail
like
them to
a
you if you
IOU
win. It's an
kind of
IOU.
gift?
They didn't have express shipping, so here we're gonna go.
Why am I not shocked?
Here we go. We are going to do 5 readings, and this is how it's going to work. So I'm going to read all 5 of them, and as we go through them, you just write one and then write Big Book or 12 and 12, because I don't want you guys talking about it while we're going through them. So
Okay.
I'm going to read them. Each, you write down your answers, and then at the end, I'm going to ask you all your answers. We're going to be on the honor system. Don't change your answer based on what somebody else said. Just stick with your answer. So 1 through 5, okay?
Okay.
Gabe, let's get our first one up there.
This is going to be tough.
Our first one: if you think you are an atheist, an agnostic, a skeptic, or have any other form of intellectual pride which keeps you from accepting what is in this book, I feel sorry for you. Okay, now write your answers. Don't say anything.
Wait, so it's just the 50-50, or there's no page number? We don't have to get the page
Whoa,
number.
no. You just have to
okay.
say whether you think this is from the Big Book.
Yeah, the
or
odds are
12 and 12.
odds are decent.
I mean, you
Better
got
than-
pretty good odds. Look, I'm going to be honest with you.
Better than
This is
casinos.
the
Yeah.
easiest one right here. Everybody should know this one.
Oh, don't say that.
Everybody should know this one.
Don't preface
All right.
with that, please. It's unfair.
All right. So you guys got your answers?
Yeah, we're
All right,
good.
let's go to number 2. Number 2, when first challenged to admit defeat, most of us revolted. We had approached AA expecting to be taught self-confidence. Then we had been told that so far as alcohol is concerned, self-confidence was no good whatever. In fact, it was total liability. Oh, by the way, there's a bonus point if you can say the chapter or the step in the Big Book or the 12 and 12 that this is from. You get 1 extra point. So there's a total of 10 points. I forgot to tell you that after the first one. So we are looking good here. Everybody got their answers? Let's go to 3. Cleaning up old scrapes, helping to settle family differences, explaining the disinherited son to his irate parents, lending money and securing jobs for each other when justified. These are everyday occurrences. No one is too discredited or is sunk too low to be welcomed cordially if he means business. They're getting a little tougher here.
This is not easy.
The first one,
Awful.
look,
I'm
the
also
first one
trying
was a
to, like,
layup.
navigate.
Yeah.
I
Gabe is the guy the hardest. He's trying to manage switching between screens.
2 was a guess. 2 was a coin flip. I don't even remember what
I'm
was.
not even sure Gabe's read the Big Book.
All right, let's move on to number 4. Let's go to number 4. Should his own image in the mirror be too awful to contemplate, and it usually is, he might first take a look at the results normal people are getting from self-sufficiency. Everywhere he sees people filled with anger and fear, society breaking up into warring fragments, Each fragment says to the others, we are right and you are wrong.
Oh man, this is hard.
I got to be honest with you. I purposely put some ones that mix words that are in both.
What?
You're such a bad guy.
I didn't mix words, but I took some that I knew would seem confusing. So
Did you go into the stories?
Wait,
no, I didn't. I thought about it, but I didn't because I didn't want to mess with you guys like that.
Is this the first 164 pages?
Just look, man. It's either in the big book, 164, and Dr. Bob's
so there you
Nightmare, or
Okay.
the 12 and 12. That's it. So pick. You got.
That's a total guess.
You got a 50-50 shot here.
How many of these have been guessed for you, Chris?
This one. This is a total.
This is the only guess?
This is a total layup. No,
Jane, how you doing so far? All right, let's get through this. We're running out of time. Number five. Perhaps there are some cases where the utmost frankness is demanded. No outsider can appraise such an intimate situation. It may be that both will decide that the way of good sense and loving kindness is to let bygones be bygones. So there are your five. If you want, you can try to get the bonus points by saying which step in the 12 and 12.
What are the bonus points? How much? We got to calculate that.
So I'm going to calculate it. I'm going to calculate it right now. Don't worry. I'm going to calculate it right now. All right. So number one. Hold on a second. Number one. I got them. I got them all written.
Self-check,
down here.
honor system.
No, it's going to be honor system. Okay.
Yeah, just give the answers. We'll check ourselves.
No. I want to know. Jane, number one. What do you got?
I said big book or 12 and 12, depending on what the answer was.
Wait, what?
What?
Wait,
you can't
no.
do that. She wrote big book or 12 and 12. You have to pick one.
That doesn't
I
seem
know,
right.
but I
Which one are
don't
you
want
picking?
to.
You have to pick one.
Big book.
Okay, big book. Chris,
Big book.
Gabe.
12 and 12.
It is from the big book. It's from Dr. Bob's Nightmare. That was the easiest one in there.
Don't say that.
Okay, so Jane
Don't
and
say
Chris
that.
have one. Gabe 0.
I put a vision
Number
for you.
two. Number two. Jane.
12 and 12.
Chris.
Big book.
Gabe.
Big book.
It is the 12 and 12. Jane gets a point. Jane, do you have where it's from? Where it's from?
Chapter 1.
It is from step 1. You got an extra point. Number 3. Jane.
12 and 12.
Chris.
12 and 12.
Gabe.
Big book.
It's the big book. This is,
Let's go.
Where in the big book?
I put WWO. Working with others?
No.
Damn.
So I forgot to mention, number 1 is from the big book, Dr. Bob's Nightmare, page 181. Number 2 was the 12 and 12, step 1, page 22.
Yeah, call it out.
The number 3, big book, A Vision for You, page 161. Number 4, Chris.
12 and 12. Total guess.
Jane.
Big book.
Gabe.
12 and 12.
It is the 12 and 12, step 3,
go,
page
dude.
37. So Chris and Gabe, neither of you said step 3, right? I didn't give you a chance. I didn't even ask.
I didn't even
you.
put a
All
step.
bonus.
No.
Jane is in the lead going into the last question here by 1 point.
Wait,
So
how?
She's got
because you
3
extra
points.
point?
She got a bonus point.
Oh, bonus
Hey,
point.
no need to get upset, man.
No, it's fine. It's fine. God dice, right? It's for God dice.
He wants this win.
want
I
God
like
dice.
that.
He wants to win.
He's
Number
strapped.
5, Jane.
Big book.
Chris.
12 and 12.
Gabe.
12 and 12, step 9.
Incorrect. It is from the big book Into Action, page 82. Jane is the clear runaway winner.
So
Can we get an
bad.
applause here for Jane? Thank you to our studio audience in our clap track. Jane is the winner of a set of God dice. We've got here's what I'll tell you.
I did so
I
bad
didn't
on
have to
that.
do it. So I didn't have to do it. So I can't really say that any of you are smart or dumb when it comes to Big Book or 12 and 12. But if you're online and you're watching us or you're
It's embarrassing
listening
'cause
to this,
we
maybe
did a
you
big-
know all of them.
We did a big book study.
We do big book studies. We read from the big book. I don't think we read the 12 and 12 as much.
don't. We
But
didn't.
look, I purposely picked some difficult readings. I picked some things like look, so just to say this, the third one or the second one or the fourth one, it says warring fragments. And they talk about warring fragments in We Agnostics in
Yeah.
the big book. But this is from the 12 and 12. So I purposely put something that might trick you guys in there. So with that being said, Jane, congratulations. You win a set of God dice, which you don't know what those are probably, but they are dice that say God on all sides. So you are always, what is it?
You said that,
God's dice are always loaded.
is it a set? Does she get 2?
She gets 2.
Yeah, what do you mean?
Yeah.
We're just going to give her one?
Jane, give me one of them.
I didn't say. I went on that
not how dice
website
work.
from last week and bought a bunch of stuff off of it for us, just so you guys know. So
our
one
guests.
of those for our guests
For our
for
guests.
prizes. So that's what you get. I think this was a lot of fun. What do you guys think? Are you embarrassed?
I think Gabe and I let Jane win. We
I
let Jane
came,
win.
I came back.
I
I was
have a
really
feeling you
nervous in
did
the
it.
beginning. I was really nervous. I wasn't going to get a single one.
I will say Jane looked like she was guessing on some of them.
I
though.
guessed on every single one.
Yeah, it's
That's
50-50.
That's why when I go to the casino, I'm always losing.
Yeah.
I'm
Wait,
always
but you also got like a bonus point. You got
She got a
you
bonus
also
point.
guessed the
Sounded
bonus?
like-
She guessed the right stat.
Sounded like step 1, didn't it?
crushed it.
I don't know. I
All
barely
guessing.
got a chance to read them. Or
There's
listen
like
to
a
them.
way the 12 and 12 speaks in a way.
There
that
is,
Big
and
Book
that's what I was trying to avoid because it was clear that you could tell. So I tried to get some wording from the big book in the 12 and 12 ones to
Yeah.
confuse you guys. So with that being said, I think it's been another great show.
Been a great show.
We had a lot of fun. Jane, you knocked it out of the park. We love your experience. I related so much to everything that you said, and we appreciate your time. Next week, we've got another great guest coming in, Chris. We have a Chris P coming in from. He's also a Virginia guy, and he's gonna be sharing his story with us. We'll be doing some topics, and we actually have a really cool sketch next week lined up. We have some guests who are going to be joining us from another podcast.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Meeting Shrapnel.
Meeting Shrapnel. So this is the meeting after the meeting, and we want to thank you all for being here with us.
Thank you, Jane.
Thank you guys.
Yeah.
Loved it.